Gonna get it right out at the top. I feel like this week, when this aired, was no less than a coronation. This was the completion of a trilogy. Began with Lazy Sunday, and then Natalie Rapp, and then today's digital short. The three of them, this was your Lord of the Rings, except mercifully shorter and watchable and good.
Tread lightly.
It was such a special thing. Yes, anytime we want to do a full episode where we just step away from digital shorts and you guys defend Lord of the Rings to me, I'm also down for that.
Akiva's right there with you.
Akiva's on your side.
Yeah.
I will defend it till I die.
It's 2 against 2?
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thanks, Keeve.
I'd be right in the middle. So yes, it is 2 against 2.
Andy watches it every year.
Yeah.
Do you really watch it every year?
Joanna and I, until we had kids, we'd watch it at least once a year, yeah.
And do you like start in January in hopes that you'll be done by the summer?
It's a funny joke because they're very long movies.
They're very long. And you have to keep stopping them because you have life to do and stuff.
No. We used to just stay up all night.
By today's standards, they're not long.
Right.
We're so conditioned for super long movies now. I don't know that they'd feel crazy long anymore.
Right, which is why I think everybody should watch the film In Bruges,
We know that's your favorite.
which is like right around 90 minutes.
Is In Bruges that short? No way.
I think it might be. Look it up, Keeve.
Okay.
We've gotten a little off track.
No way.
But
That's not us.
no, I mean, I just think that everybody's going to stick around because they know we're talking about Dick in a Box. And this is a Christmas episode. This is December 16th, 2006. And I forgot, Lazy Sunday was near about a Christmas episode, right?
1 hour, 47 minutes.
1 hour 47. That's today's 90.
Yeah, that's correct.
So,
Lazy Sunday was Christmas.
but not Christmas themed. And now it's a year later, and this is a Christmas themed digital short that I think, due to the content of it, probably never makes the primetime SNL Christmas.
I don't know.
No,
about
it does. It does. They blur the mouth.
That's
They
right.
blur the mouth.
Yeah,
It's not enough just for a beep.
correct.
It's so funny that they blur the mouth because the amount of miming in this digital short makes it very clear what the words are.
Actually, no, there were a lot of people who thought it was cock in a box because of the blur.
Oh, so they made it worse. By blurring it, they made it worse.
Yes.
But just because of the beep.
As with all censorship, it makes it worse.
The blur was not when it first aired. It was just because of the beep. People thought it was CO.
Yeah. Based on the fact of what you're telling me, because my first question was, I'm assuming you do a song with Justin Timberlake. You are going to collaborate with Justin Timberlake. You don't just write a song independently, right? Did you have him in the room?
Not right off the bat.
Not as much on this one.
Got it.
That changed over.
We wrote most of it, and then when he came in, he helped us actually make it into a song.
Yes. And really helped us record and like taught us how to use Pro Tools and in particular how to make singing sound good,
Yes. We had no idea how to record singing.
which we've since mimicked his teaching for every other thing we've ever done that involves singing.
And was it above and beyond your wildest dreams what he brought to the room the first time you came in and heard it?
The thing about this one was, again, we kind of idolized Timberlake. He was at the peak of just the coolness, and he was so great at it. But we didn't have a short. We didn't have a short on Tuesday on writing night. We couldn't think of one on Wednesday. And we went to Lauren, and he kept going, it's just Wednesday. But at that point, we had never written that late into the week. So we stayed up all night Tuesday, all night Wednesday. And we went to Lauren, and he was just like, you have to try to figure out one. He's down to do one. But we had barely even talked to Justin or met Justin. And then, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, and then like Thursday afternoon is when Yorma maybe said it.
Well, there's a few steps here. First off, I want to clarify. I wouldn't say I idolized him.
Okay, that's the wrong one. But what would you say? How would you put it, though?
But we thought he was cool, and we knew he could sing his ass off. And then we met with him, and he said he was down to do a song, and we sort of all talked about how we loved early 90s R&B, and we were like, ooh, we should do something like that. So then we got the beat going, right? First, before we had the idea.
That might be true.
Yeah, but I remember going into Lauren's office and saying we'd failed. We didn't come up with one. It's Wednesday at like 3 a.m. So you have to call it now because there's no way to get a short done. And he was like, there's still 3 more days. And it was kind of the start of this idea that you can make a short in any amount of time.
Sure.
100%. That definitely happened. We absolutely were saying we couldn't do it. And do you guys remember Seth's pitch?
Yeah, that was the other thing I was going to mention, is that Seth asked us to do an idea.
And I believe that Seth pitched that it should be 2 guys in line waiting to buy a Nintendo Wii that had just come out. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm glad you brought it up. Although, no, I'm heartbroken you brought it up.
It's a little bit of a burn.
I had hoped you had forgotten.
That was clearly a Lauren assignment of him being like, go help those guys. They really we needed them to do a song.
Yes, it was a part of that.
And I should note we were right by the Nintendo store. So I had walked by a bunch of dudes waiting outside for a Nintendo Wii. And I'd gone to you guys and told you maybe that is a good area. And then I also remember going to Lauren's office and him complaining that you guys didn't have an idea and me saying, well, it ain't on me because I just dropped some gold at their door.
I did feel like you were just helping Lauren out, like we were being shitty and we're like bailing on an opportunity. And Lauren was like, no, fucking do it. You have Justin Timberlake, like do a fucking song. and you were trying to help.
But I will say, Seth, you coming in and pitching the idea did help us be like, no, not that. I mean, it should be. And then I
That's
think
true.
probably came up with something. We were talking with Justin, I believe on Tuesday. He came into our office and he was
Yeah.
like, yo, let's do a song. And we were like, oh, shit. And then we started talking about what kind of song it could be. And we all started laughing, talking about all the R&B we grew up listening to and realized we had common ground.
Yeah.
So we asked Catrice to start making an early 90s R&B sounding track. But we hadn't come up with the premise yet.
Jodeci, R. Kelly,
Mhm.
H-Town.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of the main ones that we probably and definitely did talk about.
Was the look inspired by one of those more than the other? Because the look is so wonderful and specific.
Well, everyone said it was Color Me Bad because we're white.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And I'm inclined to just go with that.
Yeah, that works for the look.
That's what you pulled off.
Right.
But the sounds are more ones I just mentioned.
It was a little interesting to me because Color Me Bad is not all white.
Yeah, but it was the white guy from Color Me Bad.
Yeah.
We were all being the white guy. We're both being the white guy from Color Me Bad.
That cool hairstyle.
Yep. I think that's the safest way to put it.
So it seems like timeline then is Thursday is when Yorma cracks the premise here.
Yes,
Mhm.
Yeah, it must have been I think it was late Thursday.
exactly.
Yeah.
I do wonder, once you had this very funny idea, Yorm, did it write fast once you had it?
As I recall, yes.
I think by our standards, kind of yes. The ideas did start flowing.
I can answer decidedly yes. And I can also say, while we all contributed, I remember it was one of the ones where Akiva had a lot of killer things that he came up with, like the steps. I remember him just saying the entire steps and us going like, oh, fuck. Yeah, yeah, that's in. You know, it was like that kind of vibe in the room where it was just kind of happening fast.
There are so many nice moves in it. The Steps is one that's great. The Other Holidays is another 3-beat.
That might have been written with Timberlake in the room. That might be his real, besides making the whole thing way better, that might have been also a joke contribution of his.
And backstage at the CMAs is him.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Because we hadn't gotten to the end of the song yet, and we were kind of writing as he was recording. And yeah, he definitely wrote that one. Another big thing I want to give him credit for is we were tentative on the idea. We were like, oh yeah, and we had kind of written out maybe the first part of the first verse, like maybe just getting to the first stick in a box. And it was just on paper, and it barely even had a melody. And we were like, let's go see if he likes it. And I have a very clear memory of being on the 8th floor, right in that hallway
yeah.
outside of his dressing room. And we presented it to him kind of like, I don't know, but we had just enough that we needed to know if he was going to be on board or else it was wasting our time. And he was like 100% confident.
Yeah.
Probably more confident than I've ever been about anything creative we've ever done.
I remember thinking when he was talking to us that I was like, I don't think I've ever been confident before.
Did we record the song Friday morning or really late Thursday night? Does anyone remember that?
It's really late Thursday night. Because we weren't into that yet.
Yeah.
Like it got later and later as we made shorts, but this one was Thursday night.
You can't pull permits from the city of New York at like 3 a.m. Thursday night for a 9 a.m. Friday morning shoot. So that's also partially why it's just like the Hudson River and stuff, because you just have to go outside and start filming.
You also would have shot any other day because the weather is so bad. Not bad, but it's just so flat and gray.
Which also I would say looked like a lot of early 90s R&B videos. Sometimes at SNL, it just comes together. And that was one of those times where everyone just saw it and it just went.
There is so much nice structuring in this because you could have sailed by on the premise and the fact that Timberlake and Andy have beautiful voices and it was a catchy song. But there are all these really nice visual heightens that get really big laughs.
Yes, agreed. It came together. Once we had recorded the song, I think we all got super excited because it's Justin at the height of his power, pouring all his creative energy into it and sounding so dope that you just can't, like, we were like, this song is very catchy. Just the stack he did in Pro Tools, a stack, for those who don't know, is like many vocals stacked on top of each other. Just watching him do his stack, he's like, check this out. And for the "Is my dick in a box?" for that line, he did what, like 16 tracks?
Yeah, my 12 to 16.
I want to say 16. And we were like, damn. And it was like, this one split out. These two split out to the side. Here comes the harmony. Here's a counter harmony. Da-da-da. And then he's like, this is what that music sounded like at this moment. And then he played it back. He's like, watch this. And then played it. And we were like, oh, fuck. Like, how'd you do that? You're just in our dorm room.
In addition to just learning from him, like I was running the Pro Tools at the time, I was like, holy shit, was also that when he would do another take, I've never seen this before, but his lyrics were exactly on top of each other. Like the waveforms are exact. But like when we make music, we would have to shuffle things around. Oh, like always. Oh, like sometimes split them apart and put fades in. Like his are perfect. He was just perfect at singing. I know a dumb observation, but He's very good at singing. Justin Timberlake.
This might be a dumb question too, but layman here. When you say stacked, does that mean when you're hearing the song, we're hearing 16 different versions of Justin singing?
Yes.
Yeah, at different volumes, and some in the left speaker, some in the right speaker, but you're hearing them all at once. And that's what gives it that crazy sound that when you try to sing along in the shower, you never can sound like somebody on a song. There's all this production behind it.
But also knew how to mix it down so that it just sounds like something from the radio.
He literally was like mixing for us in the room as well. It was crazy. It was a very educational experience.
I will not pretend like we didn't feel like it was going insanely great and we were gassed as fuck.
Yeah.
It might be like our happiest moment ever on the show, for me personally, at least.
Yeah, honestly.
And there's a photo that was taken of the three of us.
I'm glad we're talking about the famous photo. I think about it all the time.
It's so nice and crazy to have a photo of the exact moment. It's us, and we're watching the monitors and the audience while it's playing live. So it's capturing kind of one of our happiest moments on the show. And there it is in that photo.
And who else is there with us? Mike Shoemaker,
I want to say Shoemaker, Higgins,
Will Forte,
PTA.
Paul
Thomas
Thomas Anderson.
PTA, yeah.
Paul Thomas Anderson, Maya Rudolph's partner, is there, and he came to the show, and it's really, you kind of couldn't ask for a better photo because you have one of our greatest living directors.
Just cracking up with us.
Just cracking up.
He's the buddy.
And I've always said there's about, if you're lucky, take however many years you were on the show, divide it by that number of years, and that's how many moments you have where you just know it's crushing.
Yeah.
Yes, and I don't know if I've talked about this on our cast before, but for me, and I think still to this day, going out of that into Barry Gibb Talk Show, where they realized Jimmy was there, and it was Barry Gibb Talk Show, which was, by all accounts, his best or one of the best sketches he ever did. And everyone knew it from last time Justin hosted, and it fucking kills also. The cheer, the discovery cheer of Dick in a Box ending into the realization that they were getting Jimmy and Barry Gibb Talk Show, it felt like the rafters were shaking in the studio. You know what I mean? Where I remember saying to these guys, being like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Like I out loud had to say, this is crazy.
It was.
Like didn't realize that SNL could get quite that exciting. Seth, should we talk about the one thing that we talked about after the show?
What was that?
I was a huge fan. Colin Jost wrote a sketch called
Oh.
Michael McDonald's McDonald's.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
yeah.
It was a commercial for McDonald's, but a fake McDonald's owned and run by Michael McDonald, with Timberlake doing a really good Michael McDonald impression.
Yeah.
And it got cut on air. And there was a Downey piece that aired late in the show. It was a Nancy Grace about the Duke lacrosse team.
Yeah.
And it was such a downer.
Yep.
And I remember having this conversation with you. I don't even know who's right or wrong. It was just, I think it's fascinating to talk about this kind of thing when it comes to SNL. I was like, I can't believe, and by the way, you're head writer at this point, so I was challenging what you did,
Right.
but I was mistakenly doing that, thinking we're friends. I should just talk about it. And I was like, I can't believe that McDonald's got cut for that fucking Downey piece. By the way, Downey is a legend who we love. But in the tone of that night, I was like, I can't believe we did this downer, dry, political thing last. We could have had a perfect episode where every sketch killed, because the McDonald's one played really good at dress.
Yeah.
And I remember you saying to me, no, but that piece had something to say and it was the right call. And I remember being like, oh.
That's interesting. Having no memory of that, as you set up that story, I was surprised that I would land there.
Got it. I mean, I'm sure that it was a choice made, you know.
Yes.
Were you just being a corporate guy, just like towing the line, being like, yep, you know, we made the call and it was the right call?
I don't know. I mean, I certainly share all of our take on Downey's legendary status. He did write things that were almost never in service of a live audience's reaction. He wrote what his head had to say that day.
Yes. I mean, he's perfectly capable and did thousands of times of writing things that crush.
Yeah. He wrote things that played red hot,
Yeah.
but it was like, that was not the week to have a Nancy Grace piece at the Duke lacrosse.
That was my point, where I was like, I was so high on the buzz, and I was still very new to the show, obviously, but I was just like, man, the audience. I was just thinking about the audience in the studio. And I was like, they fucking loved everything except that one that made them think about the Duke lacrosse team thing. And I also just loved that Jost piece.
That sketch was so funny.
Well, now I should say, Michael McDonald's
Ugh.
Did air eventually.
Did it eventually air?
It eventually aired the next time he hosted, I believe.
No, I do not think it aired. Kevin, I think that you've seen Dress because it became sort of a Dead Sea Scroll sketch you passed around.
No, it aired. It had to have aired.
Didn't they do it again?
I will tell you that rewriting it, all we did was, it was the most fun SNL rewrite day I've ever had, because it was just writers who couldn't sing, sitting around, pitching 2-line. It was a terrible McDonald's.
Yes.
That was the gist of the sketch.
We would always be very, whiny and tired, but the fact that we didn't come up with Dick in a Box till Thursday cursed the rest of our time at SNL to Lauren thinking it was never too late for us to think of not just an idea, but maybe the best idea we've ever had. And so it'd be Friday mornings and we'd go to him being like, I'm sorry, Lauren, we didn't think of a good one this week. And he'd be like, you still have 36 hours. And then it'd be Friday night at midnight. And we'd be like, we don't have any. He'd be like, you still have 23 hours. There was no amount of time that was too small that could possibly, because we came in so sure we were out of time and then turned in Dick in a Box. We could never be trusted again.
To be fair, once you're told to do something and then you do it, like you have to do it, he did prove himself right every time by forcing us to do them.
Every time?
Well, not every time.
Sometimes they were bad.
Yeah, that was the issue.
Cut to Wish It Would Rain episode.
Would he actually cite Dick in a Box by name, Keith? Would he say, Dick in a Box?
No. But it was a very clear thing that every time before this, we had it by Wednesday and it was very controlled like the rest of the show. And then because of this one, it was just like, we could never say anything.
Well,
We also sort of, I felt that too. I was like, oh my God, we almost blew it. I mean, this was great. This was a great experience.
Yes. If we had been allowed to just be like, well, we didn't think of one, it wouldn't exist. And we were so happy it existed. So then we knew we were wrong as well.
this is a question. When did it start being a thing? And it did start being a thing where after Pix came out, it would say digital short. As in like, and they will do one.
That's a good one for you, Kev.
Like TBA.
Mhm.
TBD, I should say.
Yes, TBD, where there was just slotted in. It was the dime also when we went into his office where famously there's all the cards up on a bulletin board that say the sketches, but there's a few permanent cards for people that don't work there. There's a card that says monologue, update.
Musical
There's
performance.
cards that say commercial break 1, commercial break 2.
Yeah.
And they're laminated. All the other cards are just index cards that get thrown away. And then once we went in there and there was a laminated digital short, it was both a moment of pride.
And terror.
Like, whoa, there's a new laminated card. This board has been the same for 40 years or 35 years, maybe at that time. And now there's a new laminated card. So in that way, it was a very exciting, prideful, and also just horrifying.
It's just like, oh no.
Like no matter what we say.
No matter how bad we were going to embarrass ourselves.
Did you also fall a little victim to that, Keeve, where you guys realized you had pulled off Dick in a Box so late that you started having a little bit more confidence as the week got later?
Yes, but the reason it would never get better is because everyone else just stays up all night on Tuesday and has the rest of the week to recover to be back at full strength by the show, kind of. And if we didn't come up with a Tuesday, then we'd stay up again all night Wednesday. And then by Thursday, when it's like, all right, now it's time to go start shooting or get to work, we were crazy people because we hadn't slept sometimes 3 nights in a row. Like imagine having to do writing night 3 times in a row because we were holding ourselves to that standard where we just wouldn't accept a doable answer. We would be like, no, but is it going to be great? And lots of times it still wasn't great, but we also then hadn't slept for an entire week. So we were always just crazy by the time the show was coming.
Everybody's under pressure at SNL,
Yes.
but certainly when you're a writer on a Tuesday night, you can know that if you don't have it, your A-list idea, you can write a B or a C-list idea, and in a perfect world, the show will not need it that week. And you will have given your best effort, but no one will actually see it if it doesn't rise to your high standard. And you guys obviously wrote your way into a problem where we were going to see your best effort no matter what it was.
Also, even if you write your B-level material, but it has a good idea, you know it becomes everyone's problem after it gets picked.
Sure.
You're going to have people like yourself at a table being like, how am I going to fix this? And the actors are all going to be on stage blocking it, being like, is this funny? Like it goes into the machine for better or worse. And ours gratefully was not in the machine, but also we would get all the credit and all the blame. So it's great.
This was also to the exhaustion point. This was also a time before there was infrastructure to do this. Exactly. So everything was edited by us as well. Like you'd be editing up until the moment, sometimes you'd sleep 3 hours. I can't remember how much sleep we got on this one, but sometimes you'd sleep 3 hours and know that you had 15 hours until the show airs.
Yeah, which once again is fine for the editors that come in to do that. They know, okay, on Friday and Saturday, I'm going to have a crazy thing, but we're coming off the whole week of it. And so the easiest weeks for us were the ones where we had a good idea right at the start of the week, because then you could plan your week, because it's not hard to shoot a short in a week if you know what you're doing.
Yeah, it was when it was 48 hours that it was difficult.
We didn't make it easy on ourselves.
For me, obviously, one of the potential knocks on me, especially in the early days, was so arched, so goofy, so over the top performance wise. And this was a very restrained performance. And I think that, what, Yorm?
I know, yeah.
You don't think it's a very restrained performance?
I was smiling and Andy was commenting on why was I smiling. I guess I could say, restrained. You were very restrained.
I mean, I'm not doing much with my face.
No.
Yeah. because you're playing a cool guy.
That's what I think is so impressive about it.
Mhm.
You're hardly doing anything with your face, and yet it's very clear that you're dumb as a box of rocks.
Yes, exactly.
Do you guys ever look back at the things you tried to get important people to come to and feel so bad
Yeah.
about wanting people to come and see you do your silly sketches?
Every person in my life that I care about, I've begged and essentially forced to come to multiple bringer shows when I was doing stand-up, and it cost them so much money.
Yeah.
Those were a bummer.
And they were brutal, yeah.
We're going to do a new thing this episode. We're going to do 4 digital shorts because, let's be honest,
Here it comes.
they didn't resonate. They lacked a sort of cultural stickiness that a lot of shorts had. Fair?
I think that's a really nice way to put that they all stunk.
That's the nicest way of saying it.
I don't think body fusion should be lumped into that as much.
I agree. I think body fusion is great, but also no credit to Andy, no credit to Yorm. You did a great job shooting it, Keith, but it is sort of...
It's polars. We'll get there.
We'll get there.
Our work being called lacking cultural stickiness, that would be so nice as a review for some of this stuff.
Yeah. You know, one of the things about this era of SNL, which you guys know how I stand, where I stand, and Golden Era.
Right.
and
I always thought, you know, it was very hard for the show to be great without a really strong digital short. And here's the thing. These 4 shows, looking back on it, are great shows.
Despite
And
us.
yeah, despite you, which I think is healthy, that there were many times that you guys lifted up the show. And then the reality was the show could also do fine without you guys. But
Strong
I wanna start with
disagree.
Jeremy Piven.
Strong disagree is what I'm reading on Yorma's face right now.
first episode we're going to talk about is January 20th, 2007. Jeremy Piven.
Mhm.
The digital short is movie trailer.
Was that made for that show?
No, and I believe now, again, we are doing these so far apart, we have no memory. If we repeat ourselves every episode, it can't be
We
helped.
apologize.
But I believe it cut for dress in one of our previous podcast episodes. And I think we've even brought it up on one of the other episodes because we saw it in Cut for Dress.
This is only 1:10. Can I just watch it real quick to remind myself?
yes.
Yeah, of
and
course.
we're going to watch your face and we're going to narrate your face as you watch it.
Yeah, you just go ahead and take off your headphones so you can't hear us.
Do you guys feel this way? I now think about Nutty Professor as a masterpiece.
Yes.
Never seen it.
is that true?
Okay. I genuinely think Eddie Murphy should have won an Oscar for the first Nutty Professor movie.
I remember being in the theater, doubled over for like 8 minutes of that movie, just being like, "Oh my god, this is so funny!"
Yes.
And it's kind of exactly what we were making fun of in that short.
The dinner table scene in the first Nutty Professor movie, I have maybe watched on YouTube as much as I've watched the bar scene from Inglourious Bastards.
Mhm.
Like, I think it's just a perfect piece of cinema.
We didn't write this. None of us did.
No.
Yeah.
These are some of the rare ones that did not come from us.
That's right.
But you guys, weirdly, also the birth of a new sort of ersatz digital short, which is MacGruber.
Yes.
Now, you wrote and directed MacGruber's. You wrote him with Solomon and Forte.
Yeah.
One of my all-time favorite things that ever happened in SNL was MacGruber. And do you remember the impetus behind the first one?
The story I tell, which I think is accurate, was that it was a pitch for the Lance Armstrong show. For those of us that were terrified of it, MacGruber got a really bad reaction. My second pitch that day, I remember because that one got a groan. And then the second one was a spoof commercial for a new kind of chunky mayonnaise that also got like basically booed. And then I believe it was like another month of me trying to repitch it to Forte and be like, what if we did this though? What if you played MacGruber? And then the first one that we did for the Piven show is basically that joke.
My recollection of how MacGruber came about. John Solomon and I were supposed to write with Yorma on a Tuesday night, and Yorma came in and pitched this idea about this character called MacGruber. And then a week later, we got together to write again, and Yorma pitched it again, equally as excited about it. And John and I were equally as unenthusiastic about it. And then he pitched it the next week. And then I think it was the 4th week, he frigging pitched this thing again. And we're like, okay, let's just do it just to get him to shut up and move off it. And then as we started thinking about it, and thought about it as more of a short film in 3 segments, as opposed to one segment that was a sketch, then it all fell into place. But yeah, in the very beginning, we did not have high hopes.
Weekend Update, the first really was in this Weekend Update,
Oh.
which is huge. Genuinely a huge moment for my time at Weekend Update. And really, never would have come up with it on my own. Was a gift from Andy Samberg.
Whoa.
That is true.
He even gave it to me at a more important time than a week where we had a show. He gave it to me when I auditioned for Weekend Update. and I was working on my audition for Weekend Update, and Andy came to my office and said, you should do a bit called Really. And I said, why? And he said, that's how you talk all the time.
I said, my favorite version of you is when you show up to the office mad about something that's happening in the world or in your life, and you get so worked up that you go, really? That's what we're doing? That's the way it's, and you always, like, when you bring that venom and it comes from your soul and you combine it with your comedy mind, it always would make me laugh the hardest you could make me laugh. I didn't remember it was before your audition, though. I thought it was after you already got Update.
No. It was because I wrote a Really for my audition.
That's awesome.
Shoot, there's something else. Wait, there's something else that happened for the first time in this show. I can't believe we almost missed it. One of my favorites. That'll Move the Chains.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
It's one of my favorites.
By the way, it was high in the show.
Oh, yeah. It's the primo spot after first commercial break.
It's the first sketch.
Yeah, it was super high. It's NFL commentators, Sandberg, Jost, Murray. And it worked pretty well.
It did. It played nice. I feel like people still, like, once every 5 years will say that to me.
All right, moving on. Next show, Drew Barrymore, February 3rd, 2007. Digital short. This one came from Amy Poehler.
Body Fusion.
Yeah, Body Fusion.
Body Fusion.
I think it was just confusing or came in late, and so we just called it workout video.
Akiva, this is one of the first times I heard you describing the process of making something where I was impressed. It has a grainy VHS quality. And I remember you saying, did you shoot it and then transfer it to VHS and then sort of crumple the tape?
Yeah, it was experimental, and I was really proud of having thought of it. There were some old VHS decks still at SNL that weren't really plugged in. And we went and dug them out. And then we shot it on the normal kind of studio cameras, but at a good frame rate that looks like old stuff. And then we copied it onto VHS tapes, and we copied it onto them at different speeds. You remember when you used to do VHS and there'd be the 2-hour version that was like, pretty high quality, and then the EP and then the LP, like for 4 hours or 6 hours. And we took 3 different tapes and just recorded it at 3 different speeds. So it went from, good to bad to worse. And then there was one where I did it and then touched the tape and did all the stuff you're not. And it was like tracking all over the place. And then we digitized them all back in and put them on top. And then shot to shot, I just chose how messed up to make it on every shot. And it worked so well. Because back then, people would just still do like a VHS effect. And you could always tell it was fake. And I got called by people asking how I did it, what plugin I used.
I remember also being impressed when you suggested doing it. And that SNL had machines.
Yeah, it's obvious when you think about it, but
I was going to say, I thought it was obvious.
Yeah, thank you.
Anytime there is that plugin or that effect, if you watch it long enough, you can tell it's an effect. And the great thing about this was because you had done it manually, there was a unpredictability to it that made it so authentic and great. And I remember it was one of those that was beloved without necessarily having a ton of laughs in it. You just felt everybody watching it was enjoying it so much.
Just having rewatched, actually, there was more laughs than I was expecting, because what you just said was my memory of it as well. That people just were being charmed by their performances and their little looks they're giving each other and stuff. But then I was surprised to actually hear some actual laughs in there as well.
Then we have Forrest Whitaker, you guys. The Forrest Whitaker show, the digital short, is Andy popping into frame.
Can we first just talk about how wonderful Forrest Whitaker was?
Sure.
Yes.
Let's distract from the fact that we made Andy popping into frame.
That was my intention. Why are you doing that to your compadre?
I was so disappointed watching it.
Let's remember that we're editing Hot Rod. This is crunch time editing Hot Rod.
Sure.
We're talking February 2007. We have a summer release date.
Sure.
I begged Lauren every week to just let me not come in and let me just keep editing.
Mm-hmm.
And the one week he let me do it was the Jeremy Piven show of the whole season.
Yes.
And I remember it so clearly because I wasn't there that whole week.
That was Nurse Anthony?
Yes. And that's why they dug out Nurse Nancy from back in November from the
It
Ludacris
had
show.
already been made. Yeah.
And I was doing MacGruber, so I was distracted.
Maybe we had a test screening or something coming up, and he was like, okay, fine, you can miss this week. And I did not come in at all for that one. When you guys did Blizzard Man would come, and I just read the script on the couch at the editing room, and that was it.
That was the only one that he let you off for. Only one.
Yes. In my memory, yes. But it was a big deal. When he said it, it was like a snow day for a kid.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, it was like, oh my God, I just got the whole week.
I get to work on the movie
I can work.
that you're also producing.
I can't believe how much you remember sometimes, Keeve. It's all a big schmooey blob to me.
It's just specific. I didn't remember the Nurse Nancy stuff until right now. But the Piven one, I remember not being there because it was weird to not be there for a week. Let me go into something that I forget to do. The comments. This is comment number 1 on the YouTube channel from 3 years ago.
Is it Andy's cute? Because that's what I got out of
They
it.
let this man do whatever he wanted, and I love it. That is the punk rock thing, is that it was like, hey, we're going to do whatever we want, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, I think even as we were making that one, we knew it wasn't that great.
You're like, is this enough?
It was experimental.
It was going to be all style, and it was going to be more like kind of the interstitial stuff we had shot for Awesome Town. And I believe one of us, possibly even me, said out loud while we were cutting it, people who don't like me are going to really hate this.
Well, I think, to be fair, I think that's also because you do look kind of cute.
Oh, Yorm.
You do look cute.
You're pretty cute on screen. Like, I'm like, oh, look at that adorable guy. And if I didn't like you, I'd be like, fuck this guy.
I agree. Yorm, I'm going to tell you, one of my biggest takeaways from watching this was, damn, Andy was handsome. I was endeared to him at the time, or else I would have hated him too.
Y'all are nice.
It's also like the show is so polished that sometimes we would go, what if we do something that is premiseless?
Yeah.
That is very unpolished and like play with expectations. It's almost good. You feel it working because it does the thing. It does fast pop, fast pop, fast pop, fast pop. So that your brain goes, okay, he's going to pop in. And then it goes to a wide and you're searching the screen and you're searching and you know it is doing something right.
Yeah.
Because it is telling a cadence of playing with expectations. And then he pops in somewhere and you're like, okay, it's teaching me a game visually the same way. And I remember us talking about it, that we were basically making something that would be on Sesame Street when we were doing it.
That's what it feels like.
And when Forte comes in, I'm like, okay. And they're heightening and that really works. And then I'm like, okay, if they've got another Forte up their sleeve, I'm going to be with this because it's like doing every variation on a theme. It's like in the film Amadeus. Remember when the guy that's not as good, Salieri or whatever, comes in and he's been working on something for years.
Yes.
And Mozart's like, oh, that's a really cool melody. And he's like, or you could do it like this, or you could do it like this. And he does like 10 variations on the theme immediately in a way that would take this other guy obviously a year to figure out.
Just watched a total accurate description of the scene.
This is exactly what we were doing, only we only thought of like 3 variations.
Yeah.
And so it was like a third of a Mozart, maybe.
You're right. You're right. If it had heightened after that, I think I would have liked it a lot more. And this was this the beginning of us doing like a stupid beat that I had made kind of thing? Like, because we ended up doing this kind of thing a bunch of times. Like,
Yes, we ended up doing 2 more. We did Punch Before Eating and we did the Extreme Competition.
Which I like both of those better, but there's a lot more to laugh at in those.
Well, yeah. I mean, the first MacGruber wasn't as good as the later ones either, right?
That's true. Yeah.
I've been notified, Seth, that there was an out-of-breath jogger cut from this episode.
From 1933.
You want me to hit you with a little taste? Because it never aired.
Yeah. Well, before you read it, Andy, let me just say, I'm devastated at our choice. And I'm sure when I hear it now, I will realize that this would have changed the trajectory of the show.
Now a moment with the out-of-breath jogger from 1933. It would be me in a 30s full-piece swimsuit.
Sure.
That's what joggers would wear, a swimsuit.
Yeah.
Whew, this depression's the worst, huh? You see that movie, King Kong, the first one? Supposed to be awesome. This Adolf Hitler character seems to be stirring up a lot of trouble. I'm sure it'll pass. Tell you who my favorite baseball team is right now, the 1933 New York Yankees. I'm having trouble breathing. You know what rules? Having 48 states. It's the best. Al Capone. That was the end. Al Capone.
The idea that they would cut something that's like a minute long is a little unfair.
I don't even know which one of those is supposed to get a laugh. Because again, the out-of-breath jogger from the 80s, like 80s jogger already is funny.
Yeah.
Also, 80s references are ones that are a little bit more fun to hear, certainly in the mid-2000s. And now you go back to 19... It's really funny that you tried.
Okay, but the speed at which jokes would be coming at you and the look of it would be black and white.
Mhm.
It would be old-timey footage. But why cut something that is just a little fun pop like that? You know what I mean?
Probably because it died and we had better stuff, is my guess.
Yeah.
Keith Urban went over.
I have a memory of something else that got cut in the Forrest Whitaker show that I wrote called Meet the Boss. Do you guys remember Meet the Boss?
Oh, I remember this
I
vividly.
love this sketch. I was so sad when
The King of Scotland sketch.
Oh.
Yes. Forrest Whitaker was hosting on the back of Last King of Scotland, for which he was Oscar nominated. And I wrote a sketch where Idi Amin was the new boss at a mid-level office.
By the way, it fucking destroyed at the table.
I quote it all the time.
Destroyed at the table.
Yes.
I will not, on this podcast, do my impression of Forrest Whitaker's Idi Amin because I feel as though nobody wants that.
Really?
And the part about it that I still feel a little bad about is obviously Forrest Whitaker is an actor of an incredible skill. There is a heft he brings to his performances. There is work he goes into finding a character. And I think he took a journey to find a place to play Idi Amin. And then for me to immediately make it a sketch character, he had a lot of questions about, is it funny for this character to be saying this stuff. And the only feedback I ever gave him was like, yeah, but just like do it like Idi Amin.
He was giving an Oscar caliber Idi Amin for Who Ate His Yogurt. It was so funny.
It was so funny.
And how did it play at Dress?
Not great. I should say it didn't play great, but also it maybe would have gone, and I have nothing but respect for this choice. You could tell it just wasn't that much fun for him, and it was better not to do it.
I think that's why I liked it, though, because he was actually giving sort of more of a dramatic performance.
It was that.
I'm going to say something that is my theory and was my theory at the time. Our SNL audience 100% had not seen that movie.
Yeah.
And that was the problem.
Right. I will say another thing I cannot hear without thinking about this show and Forrest Whitaker is the Elton John song, Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me. He left a mark. Forrest Whitaker left a mark on me. Also in this show, Yorma, Sloth.
Oh, no, we didn't talk. That's like is that a digital short?
No.
I would have counted. You would not count it just because it didn't have the slate?
It didn't have the tag on it.
I would count it because I helped Yorm work on it too. If Body Fusion counts, it should count.
It came exclusively out of our office.
Okay.
Yeah. It's the shortest little piece of animation.
I feel like stylistically it was kind of the precursor to O'Brien's Insane Clown Posse thing.
Yeah. It had a lot of that fast-paced setting.
Can I just say one thing about Sloths real quick?
Please.
First of all, Keeve, I remember distinctly you saying that this was reductive and that it was too much like a commercial and you didn't want me to do it. And then after I spent 5 days of 12 hours a day of doing animation, you were like, yeah, it's pretty good. What I learned making the Sloth thing was the song was made. I'd done all this animation for these sloths being crazy and clearly not acting like sloths. And then I remember Jost was like, you need some context for this. So you got to put a top and a tails on this of like how this is being presented. And I remember it being like a real aha moment of comedy of like, oh yeah, the audience is not going to get any of this without some context.
By the way, it's the exact same thing that happened on Lasercats, but you hadn't learned it yet, I guess.
I didn't remember that it was a song with lyrics either, which I think, Yorm, correct me if I'm wrong, progressed throughout the week.
No, we had to make it first because I had to animate to it.
Yeah.
We actually recorded it really early on in the week because I was animating all week. It took forever because I was animating in Final Cut, which is not an animation program.
Guys, we're going to wrap it up with the fourth quarter here. It's the Rainn Wilson show. Rainn Wilson, the digital short, is Business Meeting. I enjoyed watching Business Meeting because it highlights that wonderful cast, but it does end in a real Seth unfriendly way.
Not surprisingly, it ends in a real MacGruber.
There was no ending, so a building just explodes.
This was a Taccone Jost Sandberg joint.
It was?
I remember, though, that Seth did a lot. I think I directed this one, didn't I?
You did direct it, and it was fun, and Rainn Wilson's very good in it, and all of our cast is really good in it. There's some good jokes.
This was another one, Yorm, where I was so busy trying to edit, but I did come in. I was in that room, but you guys had wrote it. You were in charge of it. And I came in, I remember, and we just talked eye lines a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's kind of complicated. And it was like, oh, no, here's the rule. If you shoot Rainn straight down the middle, so when he turns to the left, he's looking camera left. He turns to the right, he's looking camera right. Then you can just shoot everybody on this side this way, and this way, and you never have to worry about it.
That's right.
And I remember us working it all out.
Yeah, because there's a lot of like people who appear and then disappear, so thing as other characters.
Yes, which I really like that thing too.
Yeah, and it all works pretty well.
Seth, can I start with, I'm looking at the Sweet 16 that we talked about last week because it's on vulture.com. And so it's there for anybody to look at. And we were not there, for the record. Me, Andy, and Yorm had left the show at this point.
I hadn't left the show.
Oh, you were still there?
Yeah, it was my last season.
Did you vote?
Yeah.
Yes.
Really?
Wow.
It was the end of my last season. It was like Seth was very nicely, it was kind of like a final send off to our being there.
Now I'm going back through the seeds to find it because it must have been seeded against some really, what the hell?
I think Dear Sister, all right, 40 million views on YouTube. But wasn't it off YouTube for a while?
Yes.
Yeah, we put it on way later.
Dear Sister holds up real good as a piece of comedy. Agreed?
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Yeah, we like it.
Very proud of it.
We're the Lonely Island. Stamp of approval.
I did not know the source material of Dear Sister.
That's even better. You thought we were geniuses.
I knew it was based on something. I knew you weren't that smart.
Dagwood.
Damn.
Burn.
Talk a little bit about where this idea came from.
So we were huge OC heads. One of the most memorable.
Which began before you were on the show.
Correct. And in fact, Dear Sister, we shot the beginning of before we worked on the show.
Okay.
With different players.
Sure.
Yeah, the Lonely Island players.
It was the end, I don't forget which season, but it was a very memorable.
Season 2.
And then it was you, me, and Chester Yorm tried to shoot it and then bailed on it because we got busy. We didn't think of the ending, but we had the first few beats, which was essentially the first few beats of Dear Sister of it happening over and over again.
But certainly, I also want to say, I don't think it works. The short doesn't work as a parody of the OC. You know, for example, not having seen it,
Yeah.
I just thought it was very funny, independent of that.
It works, I would argue, as both. Yeah.
Yes, I think that's fair too.
For people who had seen the OC, unlike yourself,
Right.
they were very excited about the reference.
Got it.
But it feels like most people don't know the reference anymore.
At the time, though, a lot of people did.
Yeah. It also is probably one of the shorts then that we didn't have an idea for, because we also shot at Flat Hotel, I remember. And anything that was shot at Flat Hotel, it was usually that we were like, we're out of ideas, let's do something. And I remember we didn't have an ending for it. And we were like, let's just get up there and do it. And came up with the ending on set, too. Isn't that right?
Wait, you came up with the police officer ending on set?
Or very, very close to. Yeah, the very last part of it we did.
It seems pretty written.
No, there was some editing joke that it became at the end that we didn't really have until like we were editing, I believe.
The only thing that wasn't written was how overlappy it gets at the end, where there's
Yes.
4 different versions of the song playing at once.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was in editing where we're just like, let's just leave them on and have them build on top of each other, et cetera, et cetera.
But we had written out that then cops come in and then it happens with them also.
I remember poor Sudeikis and Fred just sitting in the hotel room next to our hotel room that we were filming in till 4 a.m., just so tired, just being like, are you going to
Yeah, like,
use us sometime
please shoot
soon?
us out.
Because we probably, what time at night do you think we started filming this?
Late.
This was definitely a Friday night,
Yeah.
late night shoot.
Yeah.
Like definitely a less than 24 hours.
And I have a question about this, Keeve. There seems to be a fair amount of restraint in like not showing the gun. It's not particularly bloody. Is that like lack of budget or is that...
It's the only gun we ever used because we never even would ask for one. It's just from our closet.
But it is a conscious choice that we didn't want it to be gory. It wasn't like we were doing like a Tarantino spoof or something.
Yeah, you don't want to confuse the joke.
Yeah.
The joke
Yes.
isn't that.
So my memory of Dear Sister, the reason it started becoming a thing past just a sketch that aired was there were a lot of quote unquote fan-made videos redoing it
Yes.
and using other footage from other TV shows and other movies that had similar moments in them, but putting in the Imogen Heap song and cutting it the way we had cut ours. And it turned into kind of its own YouTube thing, which was really
A
awesome.
meme, if you will.
Yeah.
An early meme.
Early meme.
It seems as though it would have thrived on TikTok today.
Yes.
Mhm.
The same exact culture of TikTok is what propelled it into success. Now, why wasn't it in the Sweet 16, Seth? What happened?
I don't know. I mean, was it in the final 64?
Yeah.
What did it run up against? That's the real question.
Well, in its seed in the final 64, one moment was it was seed number 6, Dear Sister, Japanese Office, Doogie Howser theme, and Zach stops by the set.
So what did it lose to? Can you not tell?
Maybe Doogie Howser took it out because it's so artsy.
None of that seed made it into the Sweet 16.
This was only people that worked at SNL at that exact moment that voted.
I basically picked 64 out of the 100 and I gave them seeds. And yeah, but the number 6 seeds would have gone up against the number 11 seeds, Keeve.
But you know what? You know what, though? When I look at the Sweet 16, there's nothing I see on there that I would necessarily bump off for Dear Sister.
Well, by giving it a 6 seed, I didn't think it would make the Sweet 16 because the Sweet 16 would be 4 seeds or higher unless there was an upset. Anyway, I think it's important to note that it did have, this had a nice long tail, Dear Sister, and it's really fun to watch. It is a very well executed idea.
Thanks, Sethly.
Were you guys happy when it aired? Is this one where, especially when it was an idea you had before the show?
I was really happy. The first version of it was my idea and I was really excited about it. Obviously, we were all obsessed with it, but I remember vividly being like, oh, that thing that we started but never finished, let's try it. And also just having loved that moment on the OC and loving that song so much, it was just really fun to play around with the style of it.
It's one of the few songs, too, that I feel like I've never gotten over. Like, I still love it the same way I did when I first heard it.
It was also an act of desperation, clearly,
Yeah.
because we had obviously spent the whole week trying to come up with something new, and then on
Correct.
Friday went, shit.
Correct. Which happened multiple times. But
Yeah.
I'll also say, like, we'll get there, but like there were other ones we had done before. Like we did a digital short that was a sketch I did in college eventually, the Get Out one. You know, the Get Out of Here.
Oh, right.
And that was not received as well as Dear Sister. So it was
That's what I mean. It was a desperation, but then it was a success.
it was like a huge relief that we were like scraping the barrel, but we elevated it from what it had originally been and people liked it.
Did you guys ever hear from Imogen Heap?
I don't think we did. Wish we had.
Yeah.
Big fan.
There's a sketch that I sometimes will pop up on my social media that I think this was a Harper Steele idea that I was lucky enough to work with her on, which is Under 21. Do you remember this sketch, Andy?
Yes. Buying beer.
It's a great sketch. It is a trope we've seen a bunch, which is underage dudes trying to buy beer.
And, you know, for me to be just handed a live sketch to be in with laughs in it, Still a dream.
There is a Sandberg Taconi joint cut after Dress called Roommate Meeting.
Oh, no.
Let's get it up here.
I bet this one's good.
Kevin's going to grab it.
Because again, we've discussed how SNL people, we always made the titles super vague so you wouldn't spoil any joke or tip anything for the room. All right, now there's a YouTube video here called How Dear Sister Changed Comedy,
Really?
Oh, let's just run that.
All right.
We didn't write it, guys. We did not post this.
posted by Karsten Runquist
Oh,
4 years
what a
ago.
genius.
Ooh, Monsieur Run Quiz.
What a smart guy.
1.4 million views.
Real quick. Dear Sister. Criterion?
Yes.
Yeah.
I vote yes.
I'm surprised it didn't make 16. I'm a little insulted.
All right, so it's agreed. Criterion Collection. Dear Sister.
Yes.
Yes, but I would categorize it as one, as we've sort of touched on, that felt like it was pretty good when it happened. And then over time became, like, it was one of the ones where we got told much later that it was that.
Yes.
Criterion based on the world, not us.
I would say, like, when it aired, you didn't think there would be a YouTube video about how it changed comedy.
Definitely, not.
Definitely not.
It was more like relief that we thought of one and it had a beginning, middle, and end, basically.
Yeah.
And that people laughed and we were like, woof.